Is that really your idea of how to run a newspaper?
I don't know how to run a newspaper, Mr. Thatcher. I just try everything I can think of.
You realize you were talking to a journalist.
This is two J's in a pod. The J is J for journalist. I'm Mary Ellen Murphy from WGHN Radio.
And I'm Sarah Leach from the Ottawa News Network.
I have to say hi to somebody that listens to our podcast, Bob in Zealand.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Bob. How you doing? Bob is an interesting guy. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that. All right. Here we are. We're going to talk about things happening in Ottawa County in this segment. I wanted to ask, I know you spend a long time on stories, but I'm really big about follow up when I do the news. When I do the news and I say there's a planning commission meeting tonight,
Right.
I want to make sure I have follow up the following Friday.
Right. What happened? Right.
Right. Well, I had a almost 2-hour planning commission meeting. And I'm taking audio from the City of Grand Haven's Facebook page, but they do them a little differently than they do the actual city council meeting. So the camera's farther away from where they're sitting. I don't know who's talking when. I'm seeing the back of residents, speaking and voicing their concerns. About an hour and a half later, I finally had read everything written down and had pulled the audio, and I thought, wow. And, usually what I'll do is I'll type something in and then I'll hit news on Google to see if anybody else covered it. Because,
sure.
Look, I'm one person.
Yeah, and sometimes you miss stuff, and sometimes you don't necessarily, something doesn't register with you. And everyone has their own perspective on what is important and what happened and what you should highlight.
Right. And it was just one of those things where I was like, how long am I going to spend on this? But nobody else has the follow-up, but I do.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about it.
You go, girl.
So I guess, they're looking at putting this hotel on Washington. They're going to have another meeting, and then it'll go before city council. People are very concerned about traffic and parking.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You don't say. It's only been the one thing that everyone complains about in this town every single summer.
The way I just said that, I like a serious journal. Everyone is, and Sarah's like, really? That's what I love about you.
It's funny because I heard somebody complaining in a restaurant just a week or two ago about, I can't believe that they're going to put this gigantic hotel and nothing happens here in the winter and blah blah blah. And I'm just thinking that is just it's that we don't want change. We want that hometown feel. Yeah. We don't like to evolve into something new. I mean, it's tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more parking. We need to also stop building flat lots. Build up, not out.
That's twice now that bird hit the window, and I think it died now.
To unalive itself on your window.
Did you hear that? That's twice now that it hit.
It keeps dinging against the window.
Be on air.
Yeah.
Like you, Dirk.
It says, I want to shout out on the cast.
Anyway, okay. So it is one of those things, where people just think change is hard, and I get that, and so. But I'm just glad that I did have a little bit of follow up. I'm all for a hotel.
Yeah.
Maybe we can work out a deal with them that when it's snowing, I don't have to drive to Grand Rapids. I'll just stay there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think it's a little short-sighted.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you have to have festivals and events all year long in order to
support that.
Correct. Because I have family that comes in sometimes. My extended family comes in sometimes. I don't have room to house all those people.
At the inn. Yeah.
And being on that throughway, the thoroughfare, through town is
how awesome would that be?
Yeah, it's not. This would be a lot better, probably a higher price point, which would bring a lot more people into downtown and shopping at the stores. I mean, I just think it's a little short-sighted.
Yeah,
but when you were saying the thing about the camera, it made me kind of smile because the county, I don't know, you watch some of the stuff on YouTube, the county meetings.
Oh, I was watching, yeah.
And they have that new camera system where they kind of pivot to the board members and who's at the podium. And sometimes they just get a little crazy and they're zooming in and then they go, I feel like I'm watching Arrested Development. It's just and it's just, I'm like, okay, calm down. I don't need to see the whites of their eye.
Oh.
I just need to know who's talking.
I have to tell you, speaking of talking, And then I'll okay. I got to see my twins on Saturday for Mother's Day. And when my twins were little, they did the twin speak. They had their own language. But when I'm around them, I'll tell you, I just can't keep up the way that they talk. They talk so fast and they finish each other's sentences. And then they bring something up that happened in 8th grade and they just start in the middle of the conversation. And they know what, and I'm just sitting there going, I can't keep up. I'm like, girls, slow down. It was so wonderful to see them for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It was really, really nice. And then Casey got the baby up and the baby was looking at her like, you're not my mom, but you look exactly like her. It's just a twin thing. So it was just so much fun. But
if
I know,
not friend, then why friend shaped?
I know. But they just talk so fast and I cannot keep up with them. It's just funny. But I know you had a nice Mother's Day. I mean,
I did.
You were traveling.
Nobody got hurt. Nobody ended up in the hospital.
I guess it was a win.
I mean, because my kids are at an age where, they say Happy Mother's Day, but it's just any other Sunday to them because they're still little, and there's, they bicker a lot.
Yeah.
And I just said, as long as you do a few chores without complaint and you don't get into big arguments, I'm going to call it a win. And it was.
Good.
It was
okay,
a win.
good. My mom used to say, I just want peace and quiet.
Yep.
That's all I want, peace and quiet.
I don't need any toast in bed.
There you go.
I just want not more problems.
So you were traveling and stuff and you won an award.
We don't have to talk about it.
Oh, come on. This is a big deal. You won an award. Tell the listeners what you won.
Well, so it was the annual Michigan Press Association convention, and it was in Frankenmuth last week. And shortly after I got fired last year, one of the first big stories that I did after that was telling the story of former County Commissioner Chris Kleinjans and him getting fired from his job at MSU Extension. And there were audio recordings, as you might recall. It was a very long piece. So I won first place for statewide in government and education, which is a weird category. I don't know why they put those two together in the same category. But yeah, that's what it was.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of that meeting yesterday, it was quite long. I did not, I can't repeat what I sent you in an email, but.
the county subcommittee meetings, yeah.
Those were a little bit long. Is there anything that stuck out to you or?
Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting is that there is still that conversation about Medicaid. We're seeing some planned cuts to Medicaid, with the Trump administration, which potentially could be catastrophic for everyone. There was a shortfall for 2025 in the county.
Right.
Somehow they've been able to sort of square the budget up. So there is no longer a shortfall currently in the budget year that we're in.
Okay.
However, there's projections for next year. And what the county did yesterday in the Planning and Policy Committee meeting is to pass a resolution putting the state on notice. They're going to send it to all of the, the powers that be that if we get into a shortfall, it is not our obligation to cover that as a county. And frankly, we won't and we can't. And they're basing that on legal advice from the former county attorney, Doug Van Essen, who is still the litigation attorney for the insurance authority.
Okay.
And he essentially said it's not legal to dip into county funds to cover these shortfalls. So I'm going to be doing a follow-up piece on that because I've been kind of trying to get an answer to this for several months.
I know
about
you have.
Can they or can't they? And so now they have come out and said we can't, we won't. So okay, but then who does something about it, right? Because really, there's two problems going on. One is the state has allocated money that it did not disperse to the counties the way that it was budgeted. So that's a state problem. And then you've got these looming cuts with the federal budget that could compound what's going on at the state. So you've got two layers of tomfoolery that need to be reconciled, that the counties just sort of sit around and go, we don't know what we're supposed to do with this, but sort your stuff out, man.
I posted a story from Governor Whitmer. It was a news release that she had delved into Medicaid funding and how many people would be affected. Over 10,000 hits on our website.
Yeah.
Over 10,000 hits on our website. And that spoke volumes to me. So I reached out to her person and said, I want her on the show.
Right.
This is 10,000 hits on one story.
Right.
That spoke volumes to me. They keep saying Medicaid cuts, but they're not saying who.
Well, and also I think
how are they deciding?
People hear that and it's like, I get it on some level, but I don't understand what it means and what the impact is. And I think it is such a complicated issue because all right. There's people who fall off the rolls, right? We talk about that terminology. Well, that really just means that post-COVID, people who are economically challenged who required Medicaid during COVID are now, falling off.
Right.
So they're no longer eligible to receive those benefits. What happens though is the money is allocated and it's based on enrollment. So if you take the whole state of Michigan, let's say you have 1 million people. I know that these aren't real numbers, but you have 1 million people that are on Medicaid.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, 100,000 people just aren't enrolled anymore. Whether they died, they no longer meet the requirements, whatever. So then the allocation that the state looks at in total then lowers. So there's less money in the pot, and then that pot is distributed to all of the different, CMHs that use this funding for the people that are in their particular jurisdictions.
Okay.
So the overall pot kind of grows and shrinks, but it's not really taking into account, like locally, what the people that we have. And it's not accounting for growth. It's not accounting for additional, people coming into the system. There's no wiggle room if you get 5,000 new people in Ottawa County, but statewide you actually had a decrease. Then you don't get any more money. It's crazy. I don't know why it's set up that way. I think that eventually somebody's going to, like Dr. Brashear says in Ottawa County, somebody's got to wake up and figure out that this doesn't work. But I don't know when that's going to happen because it's government. So, nothing ever quite works in government.
I mean, I have a friend that in the late 80s found out that he was HIV positive. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that was at a time when medicines were through the roof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was advised, and he was very, very sick. He went on disability. The only way that he could afford his medicines was to be on disability. Otherwise, he would have died.
Right.
He's still on disability to this day.
Right.
And he's worried that in the medicine that he takes, it keeps him alive. It makes him very ill. He's worried that they're going to yank it.
Yeah.
So they keep saying the cuts are coming. To who?
Right.
Who? The single mom with 3 kids? What do you mean?
Right.
Don't even get me started on Medicare, because and the whole dental portion of Medicare is a flipping joke.
I know.
Because when you get older and your teeth start to deteriorate, you are at risk for heart disease. You're at risk for all. I was married to a dentist. You are at
mouth
risk.
Problems are serious issues.
And Medicare, you get 2 cleanings a year and a couple fillings, and that's it. Give me a break.
Right.
It should be. I don't even want to get into it. It is.
Well, it's a good thing that we're pulling fluoride out of the world too.
This is why I'm in such a bad mood. All right. I am. I'm in a bad mood.
She's grumpy, folks. She's grumpy today.
I was doing a few things while the meeting was on my computer. Misusing funds for COVID. There was some conversation, and they had met with someone from RFKJ's office or something. There was a little name dropping.
Well, yeah. So this is this goes back to it's the public health department.
Got it.
And so what happened at the end of finance and administration was a kind of an interesting conversation where Commissioner Allison Miedema, who is a member of Ottawa Impact, she comments on the fact that as they are doing budget adjustments, because every month you have to kind of reconcile where you overspend, you underspend, things are put into the budget, taken out of the budget, and you have to continuously update, for auditing. Mm-hmm. And so the finance director is up there. And so they're kind of going through the list, and somebody identifies, well, why is in public health, did they spend $8,100? What can someone explain this? And so the finance director, Karen Karazinski, gets up there and she says, well, this is the $900,000 grant that was given to the health department. But then the board rejected last year. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it had COVID in the name, and they said COVID is over, and we don't want this money because COVID is over, and we need to move on and stop taking government charity and whatever.
Okay, so that's what that was about.
So what happened was when she explains, well, they had spent $8,100 because they had been given the grant, but then the board rejected it. So they were kind of acting in good faith with whatever was applicable use. Now, remember, this grant did have COVID in the name, but it could be used for any kind of communicable disease.
Exactly.
And so it could have be applied to, I mean, really, COVID is over in terms of, managing it from the county health department level. And so they can use it for measles. They can use it for Mpox.
I was thinking about that.
If humans catch bird flu, like all of that stuff. And so, but the OY commissioners never accept that reasoning. No, COVID's in the name. COVID's over. The end. We rejected it. Goodbye. And so Miedema says, well, how could they possibly spend that $8,100? That's a misuse of funds. So then the chair of finance, Jacob Bonema, who is not a member of OI, former member of OI, but got out pretty early on, he said, well, I don't think that you can say that when the health department people aren't here to explain what those funds were used for. And I think that those are really bold words. And I think that they're irresponsible words to say that, you're just, do you know what they were spent on? And she says, well, I don't need to. And so I again, it's just kind of like going back to those old hat, words that they use to try to kind of keep those.
I know what you're talking about. That
fire in the belly alive in this far right faction of the board. It's getting a little tired.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, when you reject a $900,000 grant and they only spent $8,100 of it, I'm not all that worried because frankly, these people were giving out money left and right for severance agreements and lawsuits and all this stuff. I mean, I'm like, we're really going to quibble over $8,100 because it just happens to fit a political narrative. Okay, sure.
Wow. Okay. We're coming up on Pride Month. I suspect that the Ottawa County GOP will
nice segue.
Well, I'm just saying they'll be posting every day about Pride Month. I mean,
speaking of weird,
they have
it's going to be weird.
They have such an active Facebook page. I don't know who is doing all that posting, but they certainly have a lot of time on their hands. And I know they listen to the podcast too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad someone is.
Oh boy. Let's see. I'm just thinking out loud here. We're coming up on Memorial Day weekend. Record travel for people. Dirk, you're going to be heading out on your travels. Maybe you could. He's shaking his head. It's radio, Dirk.
This is a talkie.
I'll stay in touch, and if people want to follow me, they can friend me on Facebook.
Okay.
Because I don't leave it open to non-friends.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to be. Yeah, I'll put a link to that in our podcast here. But we're coming up on the busy season. I know for the radio show, we have our boating and fishing report. So I check in with a charter captain while he's out on the lake. It's hysterical. Yeah. Sometimes they're reeling them in, and then sometimes they'll have the radio station playing, or they'll have some really loud rock music, or there'll be kids on the phone. It's a lot of fun. We're one day closer to summer.
Yeah.
And I love summer. And
so every Memorial Day, my mom was a registered nurse. And so she would always participate in the Memorial Day parade in the local town where I grew up. Aww. And she would make this little sandwich board sign where I would walk with her. And it was an homage to the nurses that served. I'm all of 7 years old and I'm walking tall, it was really cool.
I love that.
Little baby Sarah.
I love that. That's so cool. Well, I will be off on Memorial Day, so that will be nice. I'm looking forward to that. But summer lends itself to all the fun things to do in this town, and it just does. I can roll in here in shorts and flip flops, and nobody cares. We are moving. WGHN is going to be moving to a new facility. We do not know where, but I know that a lot of times rumors go around, and we don't need all the space anymore.
Right.
We don't need it. And so we'll be moving somewhere downtown or near downtown, and that's basically it. There's nothing more to say.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, news in this town just travels like you can't believe.
It's bizarre to me that people get like kind of that worked up over something like that. Because when we closed the Sentinel offices we went home for COVID and then we just kind of never went back. It really wasn't that big of a deal. And a lot of people didn't really care.
It's just weird.
I've been working from home for like 5 years now and it's been great.
I just have a tendency to, when I'm in the city of Grand Haven, it always seems larger than life because it is a tourist town. But really, Grand Haven is a small town. It is, and so it's a small town. When I moved to a small town from a big city, the first thing that struck me was when people they'd be like, "Oh, you don't want to hang around with her. You can't believe what she did in high school." And I'd look at them and I'd go, that was like 20 years ago. And that's what people do in small towns.
I know.
I don't care what
it's weird to me because I grew up like kind of in the suburbs of, Metro Detroit.
Yeah, like I did.
And so I'll go places and not run into somebody that I know, and that's a normal experience for me. But when all, my kids are growing up with all of these other kids and they're running into each other because it is a small town.
It is a small town.
I'm like, is that what that? I only saw that in movies. Like
I know. It's just, the things that I did in high school, if I was in a small town, oh my gosh.
I know.
I'm so glad Facebook
was not around for my teens. So Judas Priest.
Anyway. My mother used to say that, Judas Priest. And I'd be like, Mom, that's the name of a rock band. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Two J's in a Pod. I'm Mary Ellen Murphy with WGHN Radio.
And I'm Sarah Leach with Ottawa News Network.
And Dirk will be heading on a trip. You can follow him if you friend him on Facebook. I will put a link into the podcast on that. David Bardowski, thanks for listening. This has been another episode, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for listening.